Okie dokie. Ooh, didn't realize that was that. Okay, so last week we were working up this concept thing for a character. Next stage after color pass in our standards was to get into Blender and start blocking things out. Fortunately, I didn't draw a nice straight-on drawing of this guy to work with. But I have my general idea of what I want to do. So we create a new file for this. Actually, I'll do some before you block out. Okay, so the blocking out process. So generally to have some reference to work with, bring something in. But without reference, all you need to do is start working with cubes. So I've got a cube right here. And what I want to do is add a subdivision surface modifier to it. I want to give it 3 levels of subdivision. Shortcut being Control 3 on any mesh object. Subdivision, I'll bring it up to 3. And then any other movements or transformations I'm going to do are going to be in edit mode, but I don't have to keep applying these details here. I want them to stay as their location, 0, scale 1, etc. So anything else I'm going to do to this is going to be in edit mode. If I jump into edit mode, I can start treating this as my first one. And if I want to add, modify, make this a bit longer. Oh, this is my first one to add. I will do it all in edit mode, still with subdivision active. Yep. I would say so, yes, simply because it's all 4-sided faces on a cube that you're subdividing, whereas on our sphere, we have things like tris on the top and squares on the bottom. So along the top, we've got this kind of stuff, which won't subdivide as much. And then we have quads. So there's tris and quads in a sphere. Spheres are good for round things. But in this case, and because we want things, we're going to remesh these things together, I prefer every face was a quad. Okay, so let me give this character some arms. I'm going to add another cube, Shift A, mesh. Cube, I'm going to say Control 3. Oh dear, that works when I don't have Zoom it on. Control 3 in this. Damn, I've overwritten my shortcut. I can't use it. Because Zoom it, the thing I use to zoom in and out, has Control 3 set up for this 15-minute timer. Anyway, laborious method every time. Generate, sub D, add 3. Turn off optimal display. And then in edit mode, make my modifications. But this time I want some arms, so I'm going to build some shoulders. I want 2 of them, so I'm going to add a mirror modifier as well. Generate mirror. Looks like it's not doing anything. Don't worry, it will in a second. Straight on. In edit mode, I start moving this thing around. There we go. I've got 2 mirrored. That will be my shoulder. Onward and onward, I'll just add a couple more cubes. Mesh. Cube. Sub D. Level 3. This one could be the head. Why not? I can add some loop cuts just to get some more shape in it. Whatever it is you're trying to do. Shift A, cube, sub D3. And I could just duplicate the cubes, but I'm not going to. I'll do 3. And again, edit mode for whatever it is I'm trying to do. This time just a neck. Ooh, nope. And on and on. Some arms. Again, I'll add the mirror modifier for this one. Oops. Edit mode for any movements. Whoops. And while I'm here, I'll just duplicate again. Not every single new creation has to be a new cube. I can duplicate inside just to create the other arm. And just to speed things up, I'm just going to duplicate a few of these things and reuse them. Oof. An oddly proportioned thing. I saw you down there, student unioning. All right, well, let's say this block out is complete. It wouldn't be. Obviously, there's a bit more to do. I haven't put any limbs in. I haven't put any details. But once block out is complete, that's when you start refining these things. You can bring it into sculpt mode, or you can just go into modeling mode and start adding details like, I don't know, a face or extra modeling detail you might add. But let's say this guy is totally complete. The next step is to join them all into one singular mesh so that they can be animated as one singular thing. First, I need to go through and apply, because some of these have different modifiers. Some of them are using mirror mod, some of them are just using sub D. So I just need to laboriously go through, say, apply every single one of them. Just quickly run through and apply that little chevron on every single one of them. And the order matters, so apply top down, generally. That's real quick. Apply, Control A is the shortcut, but only when your mouse is in here. Control A does something else over here. So Down we go. I'll go top to bottom. Apply. Apply. Apply my sub D and then apply my mirror. Apply sub D. Apply mirror. I've done that one. Convert to mesh. You're crazy. Let's try his cool theory. So I've already done everything except these last two. Convert to mesh, you say. Where? Where for? Oh, just right click. It's in the context. Mesh. But it is mesh. Is this going to make it one mesh?
No, it should just apply everything.
Good tip, and it's all on record. Yeah. So you've got a bunch of modifiers, and you don't feel like clicking through them all one by one, but it's like some kind of Seamus. You can just select multiple and then convert to mesh, which seems like it should be for splines and lines and stuff to convert to actual mesh shapes. But is this a trick you just found? Yeah, just a heck. If you have two things, do they have to have the same modifiers? We'll find that out later too. No. If you just have them all selected, you can right click and convert to mesh, which they are already. But doing this seems to apply all the modifiers and then leave it as mesh. So good trip. Thank you, Pete. So we've applied all our modifiers. Next thing, we gotta join all these meshes into one. Shortcut is, what's the shortcut? Do you remember? It's J. Control J. So we basically just need to pick one mesh to be the central one. I'll just name the first cube I created. I will call, look, possibly. Will it join them into one just by going to sculpt mode with everything selected? That's remesh. That's remesh. Then I'll join everything. We'll try your method in just a moment. First, I'm going to do my way. So select all of these mesh objects. And then the primary selection is the one it's going to be joined to. Deselect that light. So all cubes, and one I've renamed to Blocky Man. And we're going to join all of these together. Control J. Oh, before I do it, I will save so we can go back. Blocky Man. Now they're one mesh object. If I go into edit mode, you can see they are one mesh object, but still not joined together. They are not manifold. So things are lining up, but they're overlapping. We've got ugly, ugly joins here that wouldn't make sense. And it would lead to a lot of problems when we rigged it, because it'd be trying to turn the inside and the outside. It'll have this internal mess to deal with. So We want it to be manifold, and we also want to get rid of this internal overlap, interlap you could call it. As Finn was saying, remesh in sculpt mode will do just that, but I should go through the two methods to do it. I cannot just show one. So two ways of doing this. Number one is through a modifier called, as you can guess, remesh. Where are you? Where are you, my friend? There. Generate new mesh topology based on the current shape, the external normal outward facing shape. Remesh, and what it does is it converts it into a voxel kind of setup. You can just see it has blended these into one. I can turn it off in the viewport and on again. And I can change its voxel size for greater or lesser detail. I go up and up and up. And the voxels, the cubes, are bigger and bigger. My shape is basically lost. I go down and down. And you can start to see the original shape. So the smaller the voxel size, it's like a pixel density. If you're like pixelating in 3D, smaller this voxel size is, the sharper your detail is going to be. It gives me the default of 0.1. My character is quite big in the world. If we consider that one of these cubes is 1 meter, my character might be, I don't know, 20 meters tall. It is a giant person. So my voxel size of 0.1 is all right. If you've developed your character in a proper real world scale, you'll have to lower that even further, put more zeros in front of the 1. Go ahead. No difference in how you model, but it's better to keep real world scale if you're dealing with real world lighting. It's easier to figure things out rather than scaling things up. Oh, and then I need a street light that's as tall as Godzilla and have the strengths to match. So after I finish modeling, I generally bring it down to a height of about 2 meters. 2 meters is a standard door height. If you remember our modular room design, 2 meters like the standard door height I would give. And it's also, if you keep a unit scale like that, bring a unit to Unity makes it a little bit easier. So, no, not recommended to work big, but it doesn't affect it either, because you can just scale it down later. Anyway, that's one method, and if I apply this modifier and then jump into edit mode, you'll see it is very highly detailed, maybe more than it needs to be, but all that overlap inside is gone. We're left with just a clean outside shell to work from. A very, very, very detailed one. So I probably want to decimate that down again. That is the first method. So I've just undone and gone back in time. So we're back to seeing those overlaps. And then the other way, as Finn was mentioning, was in sculpt mode. So we can just go straight into sculpt mode. I haven't applied the remesh or anything. We're back to this blocky map. If I jump over to sculpt mode, let me hide my grid and whatnot. This also has a remesh option, but it gives you a live preview. So we have the remesh button right up here, voxel size, and we can remesh, and it's going to work the same way on a 0.1 scale. If I press the letter R while in this mode, I can bring up a grid that lets me dynamically choose, even on specific parts of the sculpt, how much detail or how little I want. So I say 0.3, and then remesh. It's going to give me that value. Sometimes you're working on some things that you want to have lesser detail. They don't need as much remeshing as others, and you'll need the live one. But they work pretty much exactly the same way. It is the exact same modifier. It's just being applied in sculpt mode. Difference is it's not a live modifier. So I go back to object mode and it's just applied. It's done. You've done your damage. So a bit more destructive, gives you less undo than using the modifier. Depends on what you're doing though. Now, the other question on whether or not remesh in sculpt mode also joins them together, that's a good question. I'd like to know the answer to. Okay, there's a couple of shapes. I jump into sculpt mode. I remesh. No, it won't join all the things up for you. It will still keep them separate, Finn. So you do have to use the join first because it'll just keep whatever is selected. It's treating just one object as remeshable. My primary selection. Or as I go back, I join, and now I'll go back to sculpt mode, or it's the whole thing. A wonderful, I made a Death Star, wow. Fantastic. A squat, fat Death Star. Not a Death Star, Star Destroyer. Right. Yeah. So after you remesh, you can go in and you can sculpt and add proper details, like I have. Proper details have been added. Okay. So how big do I want this guy to be? So where measure comes in handy, I can just draw a measurement. There we go. 2 meters, standard height for a golem. I'll just scale my guy down until he is 2 meters. And then once I've created a scale in top level in object mode like this, I need to apply it. I got a location difference, got a scale difference. I'm going to apply all the scale to it. I'll leave location alone because that's going to be affected anyway. Object apply, scale. And that'll just mean that this smaller scale is his default scale. So when I bring him into Unity, it doesn't come in gigantic because it's like, oh, we forgot about your default scale. So this will go from 0.126 to 111. Boom. 111. He has a new scale. Very short legs, very long arms. So rigging next. We've already created a rig, so we'll use that rig and just apply it to him. Where is that rig? Black green man. Green man. Effect. Yeah, I don't think I put the rig in it though. Alright. I'll have to find my green man. I'm sure I have it somewhere. There is Rigify, but I want to use the one I already created. Robot 2, Green Man Blend. There is Green Man, but no Green Man rig. I have this somewhere. Okay, there he is. He has a little rig. Perfect. So, rather than using Rigify, and of course you can, I'm going to use the rig already created by appending that part of the file to this one. So if you wanted to crash two files together, if you want to get models from one file into another, we would use append. If you want to rig from one file into another, we would also use append. Hopefully this doesn't go completely wrong. File, save as, BlockyMan2. And let's append a rig in for him. File, append. Append from a blend file. There's my rig GreenMan2. If I wanted the character himself, I could look for the mesh, Cube 3. That's what I've named that one. The object, the armature, or the character. I would like the armature. And you can just take the entire scene and bring it in otherwise. So if you have a whole environment built, you can just bring that whole thing in. In this case, I think I want object, because I want that armature. Append. Oh, it's very, very big. I shouldn't have shrunk my character. Oh well. What are you going to do? Scale that down. Doesn't fit, so we'll have to make it fit in edit mode. I'll scale it just so the head is level with the top. And then again, apply my scale, because it's got this weird scale transformation. Object scale apply. Yikes. Problems. Okay, hopefully it's going to be okay. So in edit mode, I'm just going to start working on this, get it to fit as fast as I can. Ooh, that help me? Aha, symmetry. Oh, just moving these around. Check on the side, and they're not lining up. Okay, fitting right, and now I got to go over to pose mode to see what kind of a mess is going on there. Because I'm sure there's some animations that aren't going to line up. In fact, I should get rid of the animations. Maybe that'll save me some trouble. Yeah, there we go. Cut some animations. All right. Pose mode. Yeah, all sorts of problems. It's trying to put it in some idle animation that isn't there anymore, or it doesn't match up to this body type anyway. There we go. Okay, animation's gone because unfortunately they won't fit what I'm doing here. And now I can just add this mesh to this character and see how the weights are going to work. Yeah, actually I should check in pose mode that the rig is still working the way it was. IKs are working. I can move the character up and down. IKs are working. Great. First select the mesh, then select the armature. And then we parent together with automatic weights. Hey, and things have turned. But my character will now be rigged, and I get to check what's going to happen when the armature stuff moves. How does this shoulder look? Let me hide the bones I don't need. Yeah, and we can see what's happening with my mesh. It's getting twisted around when it raises over the head. The ultimate pain point is the shoulder. Kind of a nice roll down the bottom, but anytime he raises over his head, we're kind of pulling the back of the arm through. We've got problems. But overall, the whole guy is working just fine. can see how other joints are handling squishing. So things closing is generally easier than expanding and reorganizing. Quick test animation like this, you can see folding down isn't so bad. It's this roll back with the shoulders. So maybe we need somehow to blend this shoulder bone so it isn't taking so much or doesn't have such complete weight. In fact, I might even need an extra bone just for the shoulder, just to blend the two. Oh. Oh, no. Yeah, we're going to have a break, yeah. But that is the very quick and very basic blockout technique. It's better when you have reference image to work from and not just creating something from your head. Although I don't hate this character. Reminds me a bit of those robots in Laputa, Castle in the Sky. You ever see that? Pretty good. Obviously not as coolly designed as those Yeah. So, block out, reusing old rigs, use Rigify for your character. And yeah, that's it for this part of the recording.